Okay, I just got down here, and the first job is always to mix your ground bait first. So I've got my ground bait in my big mixing bowl, and the first thing I do, I've got some crushed hemp here, which I've stewed overnight. There's a few secret ingredients in there, but there's some hemp oil and some star anise, some crushed aniseed, and a few other bits and pieces. Boiling water, put a lid on, in a microwave. Ooh, don't get it all over me. For about 2 minutes, take it out, just leave it on the windowsill, somewhere cool. Let it go cold, and then in the fridge overnight. And then I've got some, I've got some hemp with me today as well. But I thought, oh, now the weather's warming up, and I've just felt the water, it's nice and warm. I'll do a bit of wheat for today, in case there's any quality roach and rudd. And I kept all the water. Again, in there's some hemp oil and some aniseed, and it's just the water out, some hemp and wheat. And there's a few other bits in there, that's why it's sort of yellow. And what I'm going to do, and I've in here as well, I've got some molasses, mainly molasses in there, and some CSL liquid, which is, well, Jesus. Yeah, don't leave the lid locked because it's active. There's some CSL liquid in there, and a tiny little bit of wheat hydrosylate. So I'm going to get this stuff there, the molasses. Got a fair good squeeze in there, nice and sweet. And some of my liquid. I'm going to add this to the ground bait first. Because what I want, obviously the ground bait's dry, and if I add it after, it's going to over wet it. So we'll get this into the ground bait and give it a good mix. So we're just going to pour this in, get it all in there, and I'll probably rinse this out to get all the oils out because it's really greasy. Nice big round bowl. I've got another bowl with me and a riddle, so I can riddle it all through. Oops, sorry guys. I'm just going to pour some lake water in here and get that in there as well. And in this ground bait, 75% brown crumb, 25% fish meal. Didn't want it too fish meal here because there's no carp in here, there's only Crusians, Tench, roach, rudd and some bream and stuff. And there's loads of coconut in there, as you can see, all the white bits. Some crushed coriander. And that's nice, that's what I want, just a nice light ground bait. I can just form it with one hand. So I'm now going to give that a good half an hour, 45 minutes, while I'm setting up all my gear. And then I'll riddle it through and just check the consistency. Just get all them dry bits out the corner, look. That's lovely, absolutely perfect. So it's just starting to dry out, but I don't want it over wetted. We can come back to that and adjust it later. Okay, I've adjusted my ground bait. I'm halfway through setting up. I've set up a waggler line. It's a 5BB crystal insert. I found a little clear spot because it was quite weedy and quite deep weed as well, but I found a nice clear spot near the lilies. It's not too far. And I'm going sort of like traditional today because we're on a nice traditional lake. I've got 2 waggler rods, one with a normal fixed ball reel, and I've just gone with one with a centre pin reel. So going old school. That's with £3 line direct. I didn't want to go too light because there's some tension in, obviously the lilies and all the rest of it. But I'm going to feed mainly by ground bait, I think, today, just to keep it tight. And if we're struggling, I might introduce a few casters. I'll show you my bait now. Yeah, so that should be your very first job. Once you put your box down, I've set my landing net up. That's what I always do. Can't use keep nets here, but I'm not too bothered. Then my ground bait. I sort all my bait out, get my bait tray up, get all my bait ready, then I put my rods together. I'll see you in a bit, and I'll show you somewhere very special. What a stunning looking venue, wouldn't you agree? Absolutely lush. Tree lined, island, lilies. Absolutely gorgeous. I'll just read you a little bit from the website. Rocklands Mere is a Crusian and Tench fishery. We have no carp present, and I think that our anglers appreciate that. The nature of our fishery and how it is managed, and how we encourage these two main species to thrive. The old mere was created in the 1940s due to peat extraction, at which was times used to heat local houses in the village of Rocklands St Mary's. The mere was then left to flood over the years, and wet Ludden habitat developed in 2001. Being just over an acre in size and full of features, it lends itself perfectly to traditional float fishing tactics. Depths vary from 4 to 6 feet, with Norfolk reed, reed mace and hornwort, not to mention the extent as lily pads provide excellent habitat for the fish. This is sadly somewhat a rarity on many waters today, which is quite true. Too many venues focus on platforms and places to put your bivvies up and all the rest of it, and it's so manicured, it looks like a square bathtub to me. This is what fishing's all about. Getting back to basics and getting back into nature and enjoying the surroundings for what they are. In a ground bait mix, I've just put some casters in there, corn, a few dead maggots, and there's some hemp and there's some wheat in there. I'm just going to feed small nuggets of ground bait like that and get it down to the deck. On my bait tray, got a tin and a half of sweet corn, pint of casters, pint of maggots, red and whites, a couple of pints of hemp and stewed wheat. I've got worms with me, dead maggots. Move this out of the way. I'm in no rush today. I've got some fully soaked 2 mils, and that's in a load of molasses. They're fully soaked. There's some hardened 4 mils. Some meat, some spicy Nduja paste, a few prawns and some few expanders, and a couple of the mixture of pellets with mainline cell stick mix liquid on them. But I'm going to stick to the traditional baits to start with. I might try a worm in a bit, and we'll just see how we go. But I say I've got one waggler line. I can see the waggler, it's disappeared, and oh no, it's there. Just to the left of the lilies. So about 2 rod lengths out. And now I'm going to set up another rod, waggler line as well, probably a little bit further, the 7BB. And I've got a... Okay, I'm just going to start with a nice worm, tipped with a red maggot. We'll get it cast out. Yeah, I'm going to set up another waggler line so I can go a bit further. And with the cast I've got as well, there's a bit of a bush to my left. With a 7BB. And then I've got a feeder. So I'm going to get the rest of the gear set up and I'll get back to you in a minute. float's got to go, surely. All that bubbling and fizzing around the float there. Okay, I've just decided just to spread my shot out because I had a sort of a bulk of about 4 number 8s and two number 8s below that, and I'm just going to spread them out in like the bottom third at a couple of inch intervals. Yeah, just for a bit of a slower presentation, stringing them shots out in the bottom third because we've got quite high streamer weed coming up, ranging from about 3 foot, I'd imagine, when I replumb the depth after dragging a load of weed up. Hopefully, after casting the waggler out and laying that line straight, sinking the line, that shot will just lay on top of the weed rather than with a big bolt burying into the weed. That's the plan anyway. Feeding a small nugget of ground bait every couple of casts, but every cast is just regularly loose feeding, a little bit of hemp and a little bit of casters over the top, just about 8-10 bits of each, just to try and create a bit of noise in the peg and get some fish coming in. And the first Crusian of the day, an absolutely lovely little Crusian carp, pure English Crusian carp, really rare sight, so nice to see. It's been years and years and years since I've caught one of them. It's probably about 18 years old. I used to fish a lovely little pit back in Horncastle in Lincolnshire, what's called the pit, and again just like this one, full of lilies and quite deep in places, but full of tench and Crusians and roach, rudd, bream, dace, chub, and no carp to be seen. Okay, we're straight in again. Weed. Come off in the weed. Damn. I'm catching roach after roach, shallow. On caster, notice loads of fish coming up and boiling. So I'm just burying the caster right inside the hook. Straight in. Yeah, it's fishy chub. Not much on the deck at the minute, which is strange. I guess it's going to be a sit and waiting game. Put a big bit of corn or worm on, just sit and wait. Lovely bud. Well, shallow's definitely working. Just feeding like 6 or 8 casters at a time and then just swinging the float into it. Okay, I'll just show you that. Massive boiling on the surface. Just getting a dark caster. Going through the head. Pushing it all the way around the shank. Just so the point's coming out. I'm just underarm flicking it. I'm just holding that like that. So I'll get some catches. Missed that one. Just going to try and mag it, still while feeding castor. Bit short. You've got to feed and cast at the same time. What I found out, just casting beyond, pulling it back, sinking the line, so when I'm striking the float's not flying out. slip straight back. Slip straight back. Good enough to go. Just be tight for you all. Look at that float. Caspian feed. I'll probably do this for half an hour or so, and when I get bored I'll go back on the deck. It's exactly 5 rod eyes deep, so I know exactly where to put my float back to. Just a single maggot. Very tired. is what we came for, guys. Just switch to the feeder. Give the waggler line time to settle. Just getting fast really by. 3 dead red maggots. That's a lovely Crusian. Don't know if you can see all those pinprick bubbles coming up around my float. But I've just laid on for about 1 inch. I've got a single piece of corn and a single caster on there on a size 14. It's just absolutely magical place. Right out in the middle of nowhere. Down near Watton, near Attleborough. Really tranquil, full of lilies. Tree lined. Loads of wildlife, loads of birds. There's just something so special about sitting watching the waggler. And as once someone famous said, the most magical thing about watching the float is its disappearance. Look at all them bubbles right around the float. I better get my hand on the rod, I think, just in case. Just put a big ball of ground bait in there and I packed it with a load of dead maggots inside. Well, this is nice weather for June, isn't it? Get light showers possible. Lashing down, the winds come from nowhere. What a load of pants. Where's this wind come from? Ridiculous, it's not like April showers. This brolly's got to come there. Again, I've just missed a really good bite on sweet corn tip with caster. Still feeding ground bait, little balls of ground bait. The casters, I'm just feeding every sort of like 4 or 5 minutes. Half a pouch, good 2/3 of a pouch. The sweet corn, I've noticed, catapult when you least feeding sweet corn, it's really sort of made a difference. I've had 2 or 3 really good bites. Oh, this boiler's got to come down. Pulled out of that one. let's go back on the deck. See if we can't get a tench. Just going to put the hook in the first eye. I need to move the... So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to there. Exactly. Okay guys, I'm all done. Got back at the house. I called it about 11 o'clock. Things went really quiet. And just having to think, you know, today it was very hard, and there's like 5, 6 other people on the lake. 2 left very early, only stayed for a couple of hours and didn't catch, they blanked. A guy came around and had a chat with me. He'd had 1 small perch and a tiny little like 5, 6 ounce tench. And the other guys had a couple of roach and that small roach. Yeah, the weather today was just so unstable. It was all over the shop. It was all right for the first couple of hours. Then the wind got up. It got really gusty. Then it just lashed it down a couple of times. Absolutely lashed it down for 5, 10 minutes. Put the brolly up and sheltered under the brolly. Had to stop filming with a couple of really strong gusts of wind. And even though the brolly was in the brolly arm on the box, I had to peg it down. And then the sun came out and it got really hot, and the wind picked up throughout the day, and it was in and out, in and out. And that wind was pretty cold, but in the sun it was warm. And in the sort of like corner I was, it was really sheltered in there. And even though the wind was sort of like blowing in towards me, and I ended up with my jacket on. But as soon as I got back to the car, it was a different day. It was absolutely clear skies. Turned the car on, it was 22, 23 degrees. It was just, yeah, the weather was up and down, up and down. It's not ideal whatsoever. I think that's one of the reasons, and I think another one was thinking about it. Okay, I plumbed the depth, and I sort of like ended up shallowing up, because I was catching weed and dragging up great big sort of like 3, 4 foot strands of streamer weed. So I wasn't sort of like catching the weed. And then I sort of like halfway through replumbed it, and I was 2 or 3 foot off the bottom. And I think that's the problem. It need a good raking out. Even though I sort of like found a clearish area, there's still like 2 or 3 foot of long strandy streamer weed coming up from the bottom. Which obviously you're not fishing on the deck, you're fishing above the weed. And I think the Tench and Crusians were down on the bottom. I had a couple of Crusians on the feeder on dead maggot, cast into the middle, but I had a really long tail on there with a long drop, and I think they was just taking it on the drop. I tried on the bottom all day long, and a couple of bites, but I missed them all. Somehow I missed them all, but I was fishing sort of like mainly sweet corn tip with a caster, but it was the caster that was getting ragged off, and I suspect it was small roach and stuff. Plenty of fish shallow. I mean, think if you went with a whip, you'd catch all day long. You'd catch roach and rudd and tiny little Crusians, like 2 and 3 ounces all day long on the whip. But yeah, you need to take a rake and rake it out. There was one in one of the boats. One of the guys said he was going to take it and rake his peg out, which I think that's, you know, the way forward. Which I'm all for. I mean, it was a fantastic looking venue, really idyllic. Old school, as I say, no carp in there, just the little Crusians and Tench and roach and rudd, and maybe some bream and skimmers, I'm not sure, and perch and that. But yeah, it's a fishery and they're taking people's money, and it's got to be fishable to a certain degree. And it needs a good raking and clearing out, because you can't fish on the bottom. The feeder was pretty much sacked off because the feeder's just diving into, like as I say, 3 or 4 foot of weed, and your bait's just getting covered, getting smothered all the time. But a fantastic looking venue, really picturesque out there. Loads of wildlife, loads of bird life, stunning lake, covered with lilies and bushes and overhanging trees and bits and pieces. Just shame about the weed problem. If that wasn't there, you'd probably have a fantastic day. And I probably would when I go back. And I will be back. I will take my rake, my double-headed rake, which I've made for raking out the swims on the Wensum. I'll probably take that and just rake a nice clear channel before I start. Anyway, hope you enjoy the video. Fantastic new venue. And we caught about 20 fish, only sort of roach and rudd and a couple of nice little Crusians. We had a fantastic day out, and that's what it's all about, having fun, getting back to old school tactics, just on the waggler, just this conventional feeder. Waggler rod, I had £3 mainline, £2.8 hook link, Maxima mainline and bi-purlin hook link, and a size 16 hook. I went down to a 4BB waggler. If that wind wasn't there, I would probably have gone away with 2BB waggler, I think, for the distance I was fishing. And on the feeder, I was just fishing £4 Maxima again, mainline, and a £3 Maxima hook link, and a simple sliding normal ledge rig with size 14 hook. Anyway, tight lines, guys, all the best. I'll see you again in another video next week. Monday the 16th, and it's Monday, and I'm off, so I shall be out really early. I think I'll be going down to Wood Basswick. I've never fished it, either Wood Basswick or St Bennett's. I've never fished either of them, to tell you the truth, and I should have done. Well, certainly should have done St Bennett's, but I've been down to Wood Basswick, checked it out. It looks fantastic, so I think I'm going to head there for the start of the season. So I shall see you there next week. Bye for now.